Welcome back, everybody that's listening. So we're on episode 15. Darius and I kind of set up that basically every fifth episode, we were going to have an interview for you guys, and then the other four were just bullshitting or talking about whatever. And so this time we've got a really cool guest. We've been talking to this dude for months. we'd message him, and then it'd be, all right, 3 months later, yeah, I bet I could do that. What's up? And then we finally made it happen, man. I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much. And so we've got Too High Speed, a.k.a. Spirit Factory. And so welcome. Let's just dive right in, man. Tell me about, like, what was your first impression when it came to drifting? Like, what was, like, your first experience where you were like, oh, this is kind of tight. Like, I kind of want to look at this.
So me and my buddies back in the day, in San Diego, actually, it was my first duty station. So I had my first S chassis. It was S14. And I met my buddy Rich, and he was going along becoming like a pro in like his realm. And he would just take me drifting. And there's one event specifically where we went to Grange, and this was long before everybody knew about Grange Circuit. And Hurt from the Hoonigans and Chair Slayer Rob, they both came out for my birthday bash that we had there. And like, I don't know, that left a big impression on like what drifting meant to me. Cause it's just like, everybody has these problems going on in their life. And when you get behind the wheel of your car on the track, or even if you're out on like the streets with your friends, it's just like nothing else like matters. But like, I guess the highlight point of everything was when I came to Japan and I got my S15 and I met my buddy Shane, and he was just like, yo, you should go to Embassy Circuit with me, blah, 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 blah. And at the time, I didn't know what the hell Embassy Circuit was, or like all these different tracks, or like what drifting was really about. I just knew I had a drift car. And I went to Embassy Circuit, and it was like mind blowing, dude. Just I don't know, man. It's just like the overall feel that it gives you, and like I guess Japan kind of spoils you too. But it wasn't until after I tandemed with Daigo. Like he just came out behind me out of nowhere on the ending of the whole Montgomery.
Yeah.
And he's in his missile, and we start tandeming on Nishi Short, and my buddy Hunter was in the car. He's like, yo, that's Daigo. And it's just like, holy shit, that's like, everybody's like favorite driver.
Yeah.
And like, holy shit, he's on my fucking door. Like, I don't know, man. I have so many highlights but that's one of the ones that like stuck out to me. Drifting for me, especially all the shit that I went through while I was active duty, that made me like escape all of the bullshit that like I was going to do. So I knew that this is something I wanted to do for like the rest of my life, no matter what happens.
Dude, that's tight. And like, what an experience too. Because were you still in when that happened?
Yeah, I was active duty when I first drifted with Daigo.
Dude, I feel like when you're still active and Japan is still fresh, everything's a fangirl moment. You're like, holy shit, this is so-and-so.
Well, that's the thing about being active duty. You're sheltered from like real Japan. So like real Japan and like being in the military Japan is two different Japans. Yeah, the easiest way to say it is you're sheltered from a lot of like real Japan stuff. Right. Just like the lifestyle. Like with your active duty, you're just like, oh, you're just here to like, you work and then like you party and do whatever you want to do on your like off time. But like real Japan is way different than
Yeah. First of all, I do want to backtrack. I definitely called it Spirit Factory, and it's just Spirit Drift. And so that was a fucking slap in the face for you, and I'm sorry.
It's cool, dude.
I said it, and then I was like typing. I was like, that didn't fucking sound right. It's not it.
Spirit Drift Factory. Spirit Drift Factory. That's a little. It started out. Well, it still is just like a hobby, but I have a plan to like take it not mainstream, but like I'm trying to market it in a better way to make it actually become my actual like shop. The benefit a lot of people have over, I guess you could say, people like me starting from the bottom is they either like marry into like rich families or take out massive loans to start their stuff. but which is how they get so big so fast. Because in Japan, the culture is like indentured servitude. So I'm literally trying to do it all on my own, and it's going to take some time. But like we're
Oh, I
getting
see.
there. We're getting there. You know,
Right.
next month I think we got a 34 GTR coming in.
Okay.
So like, who am I to be working on like 32s and Sylvias already, and then now we have 34s coming. So I know I'm doing something right. It's just going to take a longer time.
Yeah. I do want to backtrack. So you were talking about how different it is when you were a service member over there and you've got your own day to day, right? And so when you separated and got out, what was that like for you? That kind of, was it a trial by fire basically to have it, be kind of like, okay, I'm on my own now. I have to figure out how to pay bills and get rent. You know what I mean? Like, what did that
Uh,
process look like?
all right. So I'm just gonna keep it a buck. This whole entire like talking conversation. This is what I do normally anyway. But um, it was after so I did the Fitz job. You know, I've been recovering a lot of bodies as a diver for a long time, and then the Fitz job happened. All right, boom. Okay, cool. And then the McCain job happened, which was the real like eye opener for me. Um, After that, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I processed out, and they try to make processing out like the hardest thing ever. There's so much paperwork. Like when you join, it's like, all right, sign here, sign here, sign here. All right, you're in. Go
Right.
to. But processing out, it's like, all right, you got to take this class, you got to do this class, you got to go to this person, you got to go like these. It's like a million fucking things you have to do. But after the McCain job, I was just like, you know what? I saw how they treated like the families of these things, and like they treated. We're basically like you realize how expendable you are. So it's like, what the fuck?
Right.
Like this paycheck it don't matter how much you pay me, it's not worth this shit. Once
Right.
you realize the big picture. So I when I was processing out, I actually had to get sent. I was stationed in Japan at the time, and I had to get sent to San Diego for 6 months for like mental health treatment for PTSD and all this other stuff. And yeah, it was a long haul to like get out just to be free. Like I just wanted my freedom. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really worried about like how am I going to pay bills or any of that, because like I looked around. I just looked around. I'm very observant. I just looked around. Like there's millions of people living a normal life that aren't in the military,
Right.
and people try to trap you and scare people. Oh, what about your benefits? Blah 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 blah. In my head, I was just thinking, fuck all that. I don't care about
Right.
all these benefits because, like, in the simple fact, if you put a plant in a toxic environment, it can't grow, and that's exactly what the military has become in a way. It's just a very toxic environment. So it's just like, no matter what, I know I don't want to be here, and I'll just you at least have to try. And I just tried, and that's what got me this far, I guess, in Japan.
Yeah.
A lot of blessings came my way. I can't complain, but just starting out with trying, but it wasn't easy at all.
So when you got out, did you already know the language and everything, or was it a learning
Um,
process as you were getting out?
no, it was definitely a learning thing. I bought the book How to Speak Japanese for Dummies, and I just made like I did the same thing I did in dive school, where like I just made note cards
Yeah.
and I just study the note cards because like you study the note cards and you apply it in your normal day life, and then you just build on little by little, and then eventually it all makes sense. But it's also pretty difficult because in Japan they speak like the sentence structure is like backwards, and
Right.
all around the world, like you go to France and Spain and all different places, the sentence structure is way different from English. So it's like relearning how to speak, which doubles how hard it is, but eventually gets to the point where it's like you can't do anything about it. A lot of people complain about it, but it's like you just have to accept it for what it is and move the fuck on and just do it. So,
Yeah.
but that's all it's become for me, I guess.
Absolutely. And so you separated in 2019. So cumulatively, you've been there what, 5 years now ish?
About or well, since, no, I've been here since 2015.
Oh, damn. Okay, so yeah, it's been, geez, 7 years.
Yeah, I got here on my birthday, 2015, and then 2015. I've been here for about 7 years now,
Jeez, yeah.
with a 6 month gap to the States.
Right. So after that 6 months and you came back, was it like boots on the ground? Like, okay, I'm going to start a shop and this is going to be my thing, is like drift cars and tuners and all that shit? Or like, was there a kind of period of just transient whatever?
It wasn't so much about me starting shop at first. When I got back to like real Japan, that was 2019, and I didn't think about a shop till ending 2021, just to fund my drift career, which is what most shops do out here. So
Right.
I saw there was a need for certain stuff going on around me, so I just offered services, and it's picking up little by little. So it's just accumulating funds for drifting, because everybody knows drifting is expensive as shit. The States is it's kind of easier, but in Japan, people don't realize how hard it is for drivers to actually like drive, especially if you don't live in like the mountain area.
Hmm.
It's really, really hard and really, really expensive. Like in the States, you have the benefit of like going to U-Haul and renting a trailer for like $50 for a day or two or whatever. Here, it ain't like that. You gotta have like a carrier truck to make like D1 for instance, to make events. You sign something saying you have a way to get your car out of the facility if something happens, like during the event you crash or something. So you have to like either rent, borrow, or buy a truck, which is super expensive. But fortunately, like me working with Daigo, I didn't even expect it to be a thing. I just popped in the question like, hey, can I borrow your truck for this season? Is that like cool? And you're just like, yeah. And I had a truck to borrow season, and hopefully continuing until like next season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very fortunate. I'm even in like my military career, so even now, like me doing my own thing with drifting, it's been really special, because not a lot of gaijins have like the connections that I have, and have experienced what I got to experience. So it's truly a blessing.
What do you
just to know the people that I know.
What do you think attributed to that? I mean, were you out there trying to like build a network and meet as many people and get in those doors, or what do you think you did that got you to where you're at today?
I just tried. So like I have some friends down in like Osaka, and like they're branched into like Naoki, and I just paid Naoki and my buddy a visit when I was picking up Daigo's Ferrari. And all of that stemmed from me just working with one of my friends down in Osaka who needed help at the time. He exported parts a while ago, and he saw me come up from like sleeping on the floor and like not having shit to like where I am now. So a lot of people respect it, especially if they see it in face for its value.
Right.
But all I did was I just tried. That's all it is. Just gotta try and don't quit, I guess.
Right.
Eventually what you want is gonna come, like no matter how long it takes. So
this is kind of a callback. So in episode 2, we talked with Nate from Villains, and they just opened Villains Sportsland up in Washington, and he was like, yeah, anybody can do it, same thing. It's just like, I think people get so caught up in their mind, right? It's like they doubt themselves or they don't try, and it's a dream. And so it's like, if you actually put wheels in motion to do shit, it's like you can kind of materialize whatever you want. Do you think that's true?
And you also like, I learned this thing from a chief when I was like in active duty, and you gotta have your own like swagger, and like it has to like connect with people. And
right.
Because I learned it's not about the jeans you're wearing, it's like who's wearing it. Like for instance, Lil Wayne can wear whatever jeans he wants, and they look like the coolest fucking thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you put that on a regular lame dude, and it's just like like just fuck that shit. We don't want that shit. But I realized from like the feedback I received from people online, from what I post, I definitely have a certain like swagger to me, I guess, an aura to me, I guess, and I guess that meshes well with other people in what I'm trying to do. So
right.
Like I was at Embassy Circuit, and I was at Embassy Circuit practicing, and I saw Robbie and Andy like in Andy's car, and I just went up to Robbie, and I was just like, "Yo, how is it that like I'm a guy Gene, and I'm here in like Daigo's truck?" Because like him and Daigo, like they fucking know each other for like
right.
a long time. Just like, how the fuck is it that I'm here in Daigo's truck? Blah 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 blah. And he basically, long story short, he's just like, because you keep it real, that type of thing. And yeah, man, it's just being yourself. Being yourself, that's the key. Be your fucking self. Because that's one thing that I realized in this community, that there's a lot of people that want to be like Adam LZ or like these famous YouTubers. And I thought about it a long time ago, man. I have so much like footage and things that I could have filmed, and it would have been like, oh, the hottest shit out. But I just like being in the moment and enjoying it for myself versus trying to whore myself out for some views.
It's a different mindset. It's a totally different mindset.
Yeah. It's just like, just be yourself, man. And it always kind of like works out how you want it. Because I don't know, too many people are trying the wrong way. And I don't know, I guess that's my advantage. I saw that, and that was people's like failures, because you're never going to really be happy not being yourself.
Right.
So.
Hell yeah, dude.
I can go on and on and on. But yeah, that's long story short. Be your fucking self, man. Just be yourself.
Well, you bring up a good point too. I mean, even from the content, even from the content that you put out, it still comes across as like authentic. And I feel like that's hit or miss, because like you said, content creators are kind of like two different kinds of people, like the kind that is a different person when they're on camera and they're like, hey, welcome back. And then they get off camera and don't fuck with anybody.
Dude, you wouldn't know how many times I've met like people's favorite, like I'm cool with people's favorite like YouTuber. And like I asked them like really deep down about it, and they're like, man, I hate this shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I can see that, because like in the past, like years ago, I thought I wanted to be like the YouTube sensation, that everybody wants to be when I was younger. But then I tried it, and just like the feeling of it wasn't genuine. Like you're not putting out genuine content, you're putting out like forced content. And like essentially you're like whoring yourself out to these people for money and views. And like my upbringing, I come from Jamaican roots, and we don't do that thing about like whoring yourself out to please other people. You just do what you want to do, type of thing. Right. So I'm very fortunate again to have the upbringing and mental capacity to think like that. So a lot of people don't think like that. They just see dollar signs. And that stems back to the active duty thing, where I was an E5 making like what a chief made. No amount of money, I learned at that time, no amount of money can buy my happiness.
Right.
No amount of money. Dan Bilzerian talks about it. Money can't buy your happiness. J. Cole, all these millionaires, they talk about it. It's a bunch of depressed ass millionaires. And I'm not trying to be one of them. So
yeah. Do you think that kind of changed, so that when you did start putting out content, it was like, more real, and you were just like, I'm just going to shoot whatever I want, and if people like it, that's great? Like, you know what I mean? What kind of convinced you to get back into it, to post videos?
I just like sharing, like driving hard. I enjoy driving hard, like as best as I can, as far as I can push the car. But I definitely do, when I put out content, want to give the raw feel of the Japan lifestyle, I guess, as a drifter. But that's a really good question. I like making videos. Like, I just don't have the equipment to make like the dopest shit ever. But sometimes even without the best shit, I put out really cool shit, and it's like, oh shit, this is really fucking cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I just like to do really cool shit, and Japan kind of limits that. But this year I'm kind of working my way up into being able to do that. Um, I'll have some film gear here soon, especially with the sponsors coming in. Like my wheel sponsor, Artist of Wheels, or Novia Wheels now, and Valino Tires and SR Powered. I gotta step my game up now because it's not like a mediocre thing. It's kind of like taking off. So
Right.
I have to bring the quality with it. It can't be like this backdoor thing anymore. So that's the goal for this year.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like putting out like dope shit. I like dope shit.
Hell yeah. So when it comes to aggressive driving, was there a mental from learning how to drift to begin with, and then figuring out, you know, how to progress and not just like link a track, but like how to actually progress and get better and better? Did you ever find that there was like a wall that you hit where you were comfortable, but you weren't like pushing yourself?
Yeah, that was when my car was a stock engine where I outperformed the car. And then it got to a point where it's like, all right, I got to upgrade the car to push my driving capability. And then this recent season, D1, or the 2021 season of D1, was a year of me figuring out the new build and how to make it even better. Yeah, it took me a whole year of driving to really realize what I needed for this year. And now that I know what I need for this year, it's going to be like, it don't matter what you got, like, you coming.
Yeah, hell yeah. I do want to backtrack a little bit. So you had mentioned how in Japan, kind of the business model is if you want to drift professionally, you run a shop to kind of build your funds. Can you talk about that? Like kind of not only like the economics, but maybe like the politics of drifting professionally over there. Like what are some of the nuances that people may not realize?
Well, like anywhere else, it's a political game. It's just really hard because the average, it's not even salary, the average wage in Japan, unless like you have all these degrees and you're doing a job you really don't want to do, which is for the vast majority of Japan. Or you come from a lot of guys actually come from families with money, so like it's easy for them, or their parents were like ex D1 drivers that were successful,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're entering, so it makes it a little bit easier because like the network and like people know. And in Japan, the political side is a very big thing. So, excuse me. But the political side is a very big thing where politics matter. So, I don't know. There's so much to it, man. There's so much to it. There's so much to it.
Yeah.
It's hard to just, what's the word? It's hard to explain everything for not a broad enough question.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you think that the networking that you built got you a foot in the door for drifting professionally? You know,
100% for sure.
How much harder would it have been if you didn't make those connections? Just to come in as a random guy that, you know, had funds, but didn't know people?
Shit, dude. Like D1, for instance, just the fact that I'm not saying it's like a golden ticket or whatever, but as soon as the judges and staff at D1 found out that like I worked for Daigo, I got a whole different treatment because I wasn't just like a normal gaijin per se, or whatever you want to word it. But you still have to, like me, I still have to like grind for it. It's not like, oh, top 16, here you go. Here's top 8, here you go.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, okay, he's not, you know, just the Joe Schmuck that's just trying to come here, does a year in D1 and then quits the next year. It's like, okay, we actually see this person, because like I listened to the judges' comments during each event, and coming in for my first event, we were like, this guy's Jean, blah, 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 to like, oh, I'm surprised Johnson didn't make top 16. Like the gradual change and shift of all of that definitely came from the network. which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely is.
Everybody knows, like even in Formula D, it's political too. It's who you know and yeah, who you know.
Yeah.
Who you know gets you like not in the door, but in the door.
Right.
For the most part. Yeah.
And that's like everything. You know what I mean? I feel like everything is that way.
Football, soccer, anything, any sport. It's very political because at the end of the day, there's money on the table, money that's been spent, and people want to win. So, yeah.
Aside from yourself, as far as speaking D1 specifically, like who's another young or up and coming driver to like keep eyes on, or who are you looking at? Like, okay, I gotta, you know, make sure that I'm doing better than so and so. Obviously, the big names are there to stay, but like, who's a newer driver that you're looking at?
That's a good question. I watch a lot of drivers to study how they drive, and honestly, my competition has just been me versus me. There's good drivers, but I realize a lot of drivers in my class of driving are like scared to like crash their car, for instance, where me, I don't give a fuck if I crash and just start over and rebuild it. But a lot of people are scared to like push themselves. But I don't know. I guess not someone that I'm worried about, but someone I'm looking forward to driving with is my buddy Butcher, who's building this crazy car to compete with. He was part of my team for the entire season, so he has like the inside scoop on how it's going to be for him when he enters.
Right.
And I helped him find this S14 recently, and it's going to be a serious machine when he comes out. And I've seen his driving from the States, so it's going to be interesting when two guys that don't give a fuck hit the track and are on the same team. So I'm looking forward to that. But as far as anybody that I'm like, I guess worried about or like is on my radar, there's not really anyone on my radar. It's me versus me and getting the car to where it needs to be so I can drive it how I want to drive it.
Yeah.
Because like if people watch my like toge videos, the car's not at its best, but I'm really comfortable at like on the toge.
Mm-hmm.
Driving like that on a circuit is the goal for this year, and just like stupid things like the wrong spring rates or just like the little things that change the entire car that we're missing for this year. I figured out. It's like, all right, now we're gonna apply it, and then we'll be able to do what the fuck we need to do. So
right.
What do you
think that difference is mindset wise from going toge to circuit?
Toge is more free spirited. There's no like judging criteria and that pressure of hold on, let me close my door. My dog's being absurd.
You're good.
All right. So there's no like judging criteria that like trips people's mental thing out, because I realized that my last D1 event was the most comfortable I ever been on any D1 circuit. And it's like I put all the years into driving, like free spirited driving, and then I'm comfortable with that. But I was talking to my buddy, he's part of Naoki's team, and he's just like, imagine putting that same energy into like competition. It's going to be the same exact thing. And that's literally what it's becoming, where when I first started at Mobata circuit, the track looked fucking huge and intimidating and like, oh my God. But as time went by, this last time, the track got a lot smaller, and I knew what I was doing, and it wasn't a big deal. Like I was having fun because I knew I could hit all the zones and all that stuff. But yeah.
Do you feel like and now obviously you talk with guys that have already driven D1, so it's like if you have questions, you could just consult anybody else. In terms of just keeping up, like building a car that has enough power and a good setup, you know, did you have any kind of bumps in the road, or like did you ever have a point where you're like, I just don't have enough horsepower to compete with some of these guys?
When I first started the year, like I my first competition, that was really fucking shitty because I had a person on my team who said they knew what they were doing, but they didn't really know what they were doing. And my car was just really down on power, like less than a stock car would be, with like all these parts on it, but the tune was just shit. And then when my car was completely stock ECU, I could drive hard because I was keeping up with 400 horsepower SRs with my stock SR. And they're just like, how are you keeping up with it? I was just like, I don't know, I'm just driving, having fun.
Yeah.
But that was the only time I felt like my car's performance was like hindering me. But yeah.
Do you feel like D1 has that where it's like, if I'm not 800 horsepower, I can't keep up? Or do you think that there's kind of an equalizer where it doesn't so much matter?
Not at all. Because you look at drivers like Kojiro Nakua, he comes from a shop around the way. And but he had a T5018Z on his car, and he got his way into D1 lights with that. Like, he's a fucking really good driver. And now he's coming in second place in D1 GP and battling Naoki and Daigo and all these like really good fucking drivers, and he's beating them. So that shit don't really matter. Like, Japan is still, it's like weird. People view Japan and these things in Japan as like a hype thing, but it's like, no, people are just doing these things because they have to. Like, for instance, or not have to because they want to, but for the most part are more focused on driving. But say, for instance, like Naoki Nakamura, right? He drives in Crocs. Why does he drive in Crocs? Do you think that's for performance, or because he doesn't give a fuck about what shoes are on his feet? He just wants to drive hard.
Right.
And he wants to put all his money towards tires and car parts and engine parts. And like, around the world, outside looking in, people thinking like, oh, I need to put Crocs on my feet to be the best driver. It's like, no, he just drives in that because that's what he's working around in the shop. And he just drives that much where it doesn't matter what's on his feet. And these are the cheapest fucking option that he can put on his fucking feet so he can afford his driving career. It's like stuff like that. And like the missile things, like people originally didn't just have like missiles. These are just, again, this goes back to what I said earlier, where it's really expensive in Japan to drive. Like back in the days, it wasn't. But as the years went on and on and on, like missiles became like, oh my God, the holy Lord. And it's like, no, these are just people's shit boxes that they don't want to put money into, and will drive it into the fucking ground. And it's not a style. It's just what people have to do to have fun, type of thing. It all like connects. It's just a by any means necessary mindset, I guess.
Right. No, that makes sense.
It's like being here, you see it, but outside looking in, you're like, oh my God, like, no, it's not even.
Oh,
like
dude,
that.
everybody's looking at Japan. You know what I mean? It's like every little thing. And then if you can, like you said, like when Crocs were popping and then the first guy wore Crocs to an American drift event, he was just like, what's up? I'm Japanese. It is.
Not even a thing, bro.
No,
like,
no.
Crocs are cheap.
Yeah.
I tried, like me personally, I tried driving in Crocs one time. And I was like, oh, yeah, this ain't for me. Because like me personally, I like driving barefoot. Like in socks, and just so I can feel every little input of the entire car, like any vibrate, like you can just feel it, like if you're connected with your car, from brake inputs to throttle inputs, clutch, like you feel the entire car. So versus being in like Vans or something. But I jumped into these Bridgemoto racing shoes.
Yeah.
They've been pretty solid. They give you like almost the same feel of like being barefoot. Like you can feel the vibration. So yeah, don't do or assume what you see online is like the way. Some people are just making a way just to do what they like to do. That's it.
Yeah. Japan is very functional. Like everything is functional. Or I should say everything, but function over like I shouldn't even say it like that either, because it's almost functioned to a fault where then you see stuff that's done so shitty, but it like barely works, you know?
Yeah, but people mimic that because they think it's JDM.
Yeah.
It's like, no, he's just broke as fuck and he had to fucking do that.
Yeah. You want to talk about like JDM wire jobs?
Yeah. Like, no, it's not how it usually is. Like Japan, for the most part, like you look at the culture, especially when D1 was like huge, it's about a really clean car, a nice presentation, and stylish drifting. But I don't know. There's a lot of arguments that different series have changed the whole outlook on like what drifting is, especially in Japan. It's changing the Japan wave from foreigner series. So I don't know.
What do you think was like when you committed to being like a pro driver? You know, what was like the highlight, or so far at least, where you were like, this is the shit, I'm going to do this forever? And then on the flip side of that question, what was like the worst moment where you're like, did I make the right decision, or am I kind of fucking up by doing this?
All right. So the highlights for me driving was Ebisu circuit many years ago. Not even just Ebisu circuit, just being in the car culture, like in real Japan car culture, and experiencing like an Aoki test day, the people that I got to drive with, the connections that came from me just being myself, and I guess that was just like, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path. As far as the pro driving thing, that stems back to like when I was active duty and I was just like heavily fucked up in the head, and I found drifting. I was just like, this is it. It's like, this is what makes me happy. That it all like stems together. But I guess the highlight of it all, it wouldn't even have to be behind the wheel. It would be working at Daigo's. That's like my highlight of my entire time being in Japan. And then to give you the lowest point would be after the last round of my D1 event, D1 season, where like you look back on how much money you spend, and like in November alone, I think I spent like $7,000 to practice and compete, which is a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
In Japan. And it's like, fuck, like what am I spending all this money for to like not, you know, take it to the next step? But the funny thing is that same week I was having that thought, like this is the only time my entire time like behind the wheel of driving where I was like, you know what? I was questioning it. I was like, is this for me? And then all of a sudden wheel sponsorship came out of nowhere. And that's my wheel sponsorship. And I was just like, all right, I'll shut the fuck up now. I got to pay my dues. And I a couple of weeks ago, my buddy from Osaka came up here and I helped him out. And like he was explaining to me, like, say for instance, Naoki Nakamura, right? He's been driving for an ungodly amount of years, but people have, for the most part, outside of Japan, looked at his highlights over the last 4 or 5 years. He was explaining to me, because he's part of his team, so he's been there since like late 90s to like early 2000s to like now, and like now they're fucking winning everything, right?
Right.
He was explaining it to me where it took Naoki like 6 years before he started like winning. So it really broke things down into perspective for me in my realm. And it's like, okay, I'm not doing too bad, because at the end of the day, I don't view myself as too high speed with X amount of followers. I'm Kadell at the end of the day. I don't really care about any of that shit. I just want to drive. But damn, I just lost my whole train of thought. Oh, sorry. So like I'm a nobody, and here I am accumulating like a tire sponsorship and a wheel sponsorship and a clothing sponsorship, and I have like my own program going on with Spirit Drift, and it's like I'm not doing too bad. Like I'm very hard on myself. I'm not doing bad at all. So that's like the lowest point, but I had to realize that I'm
Right.
actually doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's hard to just make one single highlight.
Oh, I know.
I've had a lot of highlights since I've been in Japan. Like it's been a lot, man.
Yeah.
It's been a lot. It's been a lot.
Oh yeah.
It's been a lot.
When did this bridge between you and Daigo, like you said, you obviously were driving with him, but was there a point where it was like, hey, I want you to work for me, or I want to do shit with you more? You know what I mean? What did that look like?
He posted online that he was searching for like mechanics and he didn't need like any real experience. So I just like clicked the link and applied and sent my resume, and I sent my like tag so like they can see like, oh, I actually build engines at home and I do this, blah, 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 blah. And he DM'd me, and he's like, oh, can you start tomorrow? And I was like, fuck yeah. And that was like December last year. And I worked for Daigo for a couple months. And then what basically the only reason that I don't work there anymore is because the shop, it's a 2-hour drive there and a 2-hour drive back. And a lot of people want to know like tolls and gas in Japan is ridiculously expensive. Like a gallon of gas is like $6. So getting paid what I was getting paid at the time, I was spending my whole paycheck basically to go work at Daigo's. And then it took me a while, but I had to like, I spoke to Daigo and I was just like, yo, how are you winning like back in like 2008, 2009? I forget the years, but early back 2000s, like when he was like FD champion and all that stuff. I was like, how are you winning at this time and like killing it? He's like, oh, I was driving 2 to 3 times a week. And like, I really had to think to myself, I was like, there's no way I can drive that much on this amount of money coming in. So I was just like, it got to a point where like he understood. I was just like, look, I can't do this as much as I want to help you because like you're my favorite driver. Like me and him still have like a cool relationship, and which is really fucking cool. Sorry
to anybody's standards. Yeah.
It's still really fucking cool because like I'm nobody, and like just like being at Daigo's house and like just watching TV with him on, like that was really fucking cool, even though that's like nothing to him now. Like for like a gaijin or whatever, like that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
And it was just like I need to focus on like Spirit Drift Factory and my income of money so I can afford to do that, to become a better driver. So it's a sacrifice because at the end of the day, like they say, networking is like the biggest thing in like this new century, a new vibe of people. But it was really hard to not stay there, but to be like, I had to do the realistic thing, and there's no way I could afford a season of drifting or practice or anything doing that. But coming home, I only had like what 2-3 hours to like sleep, and then it's the same thing every day. Like you just grind, like it's hard work. It's like people see the shit that he posts on the internet, they have no idea this guy's fucking work ethic. He works fucking hard every day, all day. And that's something that stuck with me. So I'm trying to implement that into like what I have going on. But it's just like getting there slowly but surely. So yeah, man.
And then for you opening up a shop, did you have like I don't want to say a customer base, but like what was it like to try to build that? You know what I mean? To what's the market like over there, and what's it like for you just to get new customers in the door or marketing or whatever? You know what I mean? What did that look like for you?
It really hasn't even been a marketing thing. I haven't spent $1 on marketing. It's mainly been like word of mouth. I do a job for this guy, and then he recommends another person, and then that person recommends another person, and it turns into like just an ongoing thing. So it's just mainly keeping up the quality of my work to where people will continue coming back, where my customers are continually coming back. I don't post everything on my page, but people are continuously coming back. So it's like, okay, cool. And then now, like I mentioned earlier, like we're going to be touching like 34 GTR soon. And it's just like, okay, mine's racing is touching 34 GTRs. And like, so it's like, all right, I'm not doing too bad in that area either. It's only a matter of time before it all like branches out. The only thing in Japan that hinders me, where in the States would be super easy. In the States, you can get a shop for a pretty cheap, like monthly rate, like to rent out a spot, like you put your own lift and all that stuff. But like in Japan, to like find a spot, some people are paying like 10 bands a month to rent a really tiny fucking spot, like smaller than my house spot. Or like it's designed to keep the low people low and the rich people rich here. A lot of people don't realize it, but China or Japan is like a really polite China. That's really all it is. It's just a really polite China, and yeah, it's really hard, especially if you don't give yourself to the system and take out these massive loans. It's really difficult, but I mean, slowly but surely we're getting there. So hopefully I have the at least how I think I have the benefit of being who I am. And when I start to excel in what I'm doing, like working at Daigo's really opened my fucking eyes to like what's possible, and like possible sponsorships and stuff you could actually be getting. So I just have faith in like what I'm doing. Eventually, as long as I don't quit, I know I'm gonna get there. So it's only a matter of time.
How did you kind of get around that system? Was it just going so far out of town or whatever to like actually not be paying astronomical prices for this stuff?
What do you mean?
Just in terms of rent or operating a shop or whatever, because you're trying to do it right.
Oh, dude, I work like I'll pull up on you, like your car's broken at home.
Oh, I got you. Yeah,
and then get the repairs done, or I'll pick up your car from you. Like I try to make it a convenience thing to where like, all right, you can't do this because like you're at work or something, and work's taking up too much of your time. I'll pick up your car for you, fix it, then drop it off back to you. So it's just a whole convenience thing to where people don't even have to go to the shop. So I operate from home, or I just pull up on you.
Yeah. You and I were talking in the chat a little bit about obviously this new Hakosko build that Daigo just wrapped up. And so how much involvement did you have with that? Or I should say, like, probably a better question than that is what's the craziest thing that you've either had a hand in with him, or just the craziest build that you've seen in person?
The craziest build that I've seen is definitely making a McLaren a drift car. And we're talking like building a custom whole angle kit for it, front wheels are nice and punky. That was really tight. But hands on, the craziest build that I've had a part of would have to be either the A90 Supra or the Hakoska. The A90 Supra, I had a full hands-on with that, like from start to finish, tearing it down and putting it all back together. The Hakoska, I only had about half of the time with it until I realized, like, hey, I got to do my own thing. Like, you showed me the way, and I have to go that way. I can't, like what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So with the Hakoska, man, there's a lot of custom shit that we had to make for that shit. Like, if you saw the rear arms, I wish I could pull up the picture of the rear arms for you, but Daigo made these custom beefy ass rear arms because the car is so fucking light. He's putting this fucking 800 horsepower V8 in it.
Yeah.
Naturally aspirated, just like 800. But like just to add some weight to the back, these beefy fucking like rear lower control arm / knuckle unit that he built for him. Like, Daigo is just super fucking smart, man. he's super. He I don't know. He unlocked a level of confidence in car building out of me that I didn't have before, just for me working there. So like, yeah, Hakoska was definitely crazy, but so was everything there. Everything's crazy. Working on his car, his actual like D1 car, crazy.
Yeah.
There's the Yaris that we built. We stripped the whole entire Yaris and built that shit the fuck up. And everything that goes through there is just fucking crazy. Like that's his standard. So
yeah. What was because the Hakoska was a customer car, right?
Yeah.
So how much of that stuff that we see, you know, because obviously, like you were saying, I mean, in the VR38 High Ace, that was his personal one. This is from a few years ago.
High Ace, I don't know what car you're talking about.
I wish I could remember. It was like 2017, 2018. He had a High Ace with a VR38 in it.
I don't even remember.
I'll have to look it up. But the main question being is how much of the stuff coming through there, or the stuff that he's working on, is his stuff versus, you know, commission cars or stuff that people pay him to build?
I'll leave that up to him to say. I'll leave that up to him to say.
Fair enough. And then I do want to like way backtrack. We were talking earlier about, you know, toge driving versus circuit driving or professional driving. What was your first time on the toge like? And had you already been drifting tracks before that? You know, did you do street stuff first and then go to the track? Like, how did those two kind of mesh or come together? You know, what was your introduction to street?
My introduction to street would be San Diego. With my buddy Rich that I mentioned to you before. We go out to like the 805, they call it, or some shit, and go drift down there. But like this is a bunch of L turns, nothing really serious. That's it. Then you get to Japan and it's like, all right, we're gonna go to the toge. And I'm just like, all right. I'm this like little dude, stock little S15, putting up the mountain with these guys with like 450 horsepower cars, like zooming away from my ass, and get to the toge, and I don't know. There's a lot of toges, and a lot of them are mind blowing because you're literally out there from like midnight to sunrise, and like you're having breakfast with your friends, and like you literally see the sunrise in the morning, and it's like, holy shit, we've been driving for that fucking long. You're making me like
like nostalgic.
Yeah. There's a lot of good shit, man. There's a lot of good shit.
Yeah. Is there an inherent, aside from just like actually crashing or something, is there an inherent legal risk over there if you're street driving? Like what's...
Oh, fuck yeah. Especially if you're a foreigner. If you're a foreigner, they're going to try to kick you out the fucking country. But if you're Japanese, there's not really much to really worry about. You lose your license, whatever. I've lost my license here, not for street drifting. But I've been through the process, so I understood how it's like if you did get caught. But if you're a foreigner, they'll keep you in jail for way longer than they'd keep a Japanese person. And then maybe you pay some fines, wait a couple months for your license, back on the street.
Yeah. Jeez.
But there's a higher risk for everything as a foreigner. So you have to like be on your P's and Q's out here as a foreigner, where Japanese can get away with like anything.
Yeah. Right. And then like, is it typically when you're driving street, is it like you just have a regular spot that you go to every time? Is it, you know, how does that scouting process work if you want to go somewhere new? Or is it just like, hey, we're going to send it wherever we want? Like, this road looks cool.
Some people will go to the same spots, but me, pull up Google Maps. It's like, oh, that looks like a really cool road. And then it's just a road trip to either a really good road or a really shitty road. And it's like, okay. But for the most part, I've been really focused on D1 and making it in D1, and having that image of being a street driver is not a good thing out here anymore. It's not cool. Like, it's cool to like the people that aren't going to sponsor you. Like, the normal
Right,
crowd.
right.
So that's why I go to Ebisu and drive the tailgate there, because one, I don't have to worry about cops, and it relieves a whole different pressure. But then again, when you're driving with that pressure on you, it turns you into a completely different beast, to where you drive in those conditions all the time. You're used to those threatening conditions all the time, to where you go to a regular event and it's like, what the fuck is this? And then you dominate. So there's a spin-off of everything. But me personally, I haven't been out like to the toge fucking around in a long time, just because I value what D1 and becoming a pro drifter can do for me. So I'm not trying to put my wife and family in jeopardy, because
Right.
I'm the caretaker of the family, and me being in jail is not going to do anything for me. There ain't no bitches in jail. There ain't no good food in jail. There ain't no drifting in jail. So why the fuck do I want to go to jail?
Right.
So yeah, that stems to it's not even like a fear thing, just being like logical.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, I'm not going to fucking do that stupid shit, because
Right.
a lot of people get caught up in that shit. And I don't know. I'm not even trying to entertain it. So
Right. That's
and
fair.
if I do, it'll never be on the internet. So
yeah. So I mean, you were talking. So the 15 was, you know, you've obviously been in S15s for a long time, and you still are. Is that like here to stay? Like that's your chassis, or is there another chassis that you're eyeing up that you like?
there's a chassis that Daigo has that I'm trying to buy. It's fully caged, so I can compete in MSC and like the Formula D realm too out here. Because in D1 at my level, you don't need a cage, but if you go to MSC or different competitions out here, you need like a bolting cage at least, or a welding cage.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to scoop that up off him.
Is that a 15 as well?
Yeah, it's a 15 as well. And then yeah, my 15 is my baby, but I already accepted it. If I wreck it, I wreck it. I don't. It's just a car. Like, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I have another practice car here. I won't say what it is that I'm building up, but yeah, it's my baby. It's my little baby. I love her.
Do you think the preference is just that that's what you've been driving and you're like, this is just the car, I know it in and out? You know?
I've been a fan. So realistically, I love S14s more than S15s, but I sold my S14 like an idiot years ago. I should have kept it, but it's what I have now, and it's what works for me just fine. It's the same thing as S14, just a little shorter in chassis length and skinnier, but it works fine for me, and it looks good, and it performs good. So
yeah,
it's well known around the world that S15s are great cars to drive in. So why beat a dead horse?
Yeah. And so, I mean, with that, what's the plan for 2022? We talked about some of the items for sure. You know, what's your main aspiration, do you think, going into this year?
To fucking finally podium. And it's bringing the car to the spec that I know it can be. So if people watch old competition videos, when I was on like 17s up front, the car it wasn't 100%, but it was way more aggressive than it is now. Then when I put the 18s up front, the body roll changed quite a bit. Just a whole different tire feel of the car. You'll notice in Japan, people run 17s up front on their drift cars, more angle, more clearance, cheaper tires, cheaper wheels. It's all for a reason, but it's just getting the car into like fuck you mode, to where like no matter what circuit I'm turning up to, it's not going to be an issue. And then obviously putting on for my sponsors and myself for like my goals. I think a podium is definitely within reach this year, because the guys that I'm driving behind, like I've tandem with them before, and like they have like 500 plus horsepower, and I'm still on their shit. So, and that's with the shitty setup. So when it's good to go, it should be fucking pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. What's your, I didn't ask this and I totally meant to. What's your like preferred track? Like if you show up and maybe it's the one you go to all the time, maybe it's the one that you never get to drive at, but out of everything there, what's your favorite?
Hmm. My preferred track. That's hard. There's so many good tracks here.
I know, right?
So for like flat drifting, like a flat course, I like the back half at Nico. I don't like the whole first entry really that too much that people are fond of.
Mm-hmm.
The big left-hand flick, like that's whatever. But the back half is like pretty awesome. At Ebisu, everybody was crazy about Minami, but Minami was like whatever to me. I mainly enjoyed Ebisu because of the tailgate course. North course and school course are blah. Mayhem, people have like a crazy like hype for Mayhem. And I've been to Mayhem multiple times. It's not like, I don't know, it's not like, oh my God to me. Like, don't get me wrong, like the hardest drivers in Japan come from out of like Osaka area.
Mm-hmm.
But like Mayhem, I don't know, man. I like elevation changes and constant like changes versus just like the left-hand flick throttle,
Right?
that type of driving. So everybody has their own preference. I don't know. My preference, I guess, is like when I move from here, I plan on moving to like a mountain area, to where I'll be around like the toge all the time. I guess like the toge. I like toge a lot. Just like being in nature and like just the toge feel. It's just, you can't beat it because that's where drifting originally replicated or came from.
Yeah.
In the mountains. So I guess that organic feel of just like feeling the mountain and just driving, you can't beat that. A night out with your buddies, good barbecue, good beers. You guys go out to a local toge and just like have fun.
Yeah.
That's it. That's really all it is. It don't even matter about like the trophies and none of that. Like just like a good time with your buddies and your friends. That's what it's all about.
Hell yeah. All right, brother. That's a good spot to end it, I think. Hey, thank you so much for your time, man. Like I said earlier in the episode, we've been coordinating this for a while. We're super excited about it. And so it's awesome to have you on and talk about this stuff. Let people know, where can they find you on social media? You know, what do you have going on? And, you know, as far as content goes?
They can find me at Too High Speed. That's TOOHIGHH speed with 4 Ds. And then as far as this year, we have the 2022 round of D1 coming up, which is going to be awesome. We have new wheels coming in from my sponsor, Artists of Wheels, that will be displayed on the car. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going on this year that I can't say on the podcast, but it's definitely going to be a flip-flop from last year. There should be a lot more driving, a lot more video content, and I don't know, just a lot more JDM, like real JDM shit, not this fantasy shit you guys see. So it's going to be pretty fucking cool, man, and I'm stoked.
Hell yeah.
I'm stoked.
For those of you guys listening, we're going to put all the links and everything in the description of this podcast. So you'll be sure to check that out. Aside from that, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.